All right, we are live. This is my first time handling it, so I forgot to do the intro countdown. That that is on me, but we are officially live here. It is me and Arjun handling the Q&A this week. Arjun, how are you doing?
Doing great. Excited to be on the main show. So hopefully we have
Yeah,
some good
we
discussions.
we called Arjun up from the practice squad due to two injuries this week to Tyler and Steven, who couldn't be
Yeah.
here.
Got a little one
Um,
game contract.
One game contract, and then if you play 3 podcasts, then that's when you get promoted to the full team.
Yes.
Let's start with this $5 super chat from Tyler Schoon, who says, "Which brand of tire is your favorite?" Obviously, in reference to the John Gruden stuff yesterday. So that was funny. So, prayers out for Tyler's family. He's been doing good, and we hope he's back soon as possible. So shout out to him. And I do also want to give a shout out to one of our new friends at expressvpn.com. You can go to expressvpn.com/guilty. So we came to them and we said, hey, NFL Game Pass sucks in America. Can we get it in other places? And I get it internationally because I'm in school overseas. So now Tyler and Steven, with the help of ExpressVPN, shill off of my NFL Game Pass here at home, here back in the United States. So you can get a 3-month free trial on us if you go to expressvpn.com/guilty. Again, that's expressvpn.com/guilty. Shilling out of the way, let's get to the first Patreon question. This comes from Kevin Kernick, and he has a question specifically for Arjun about Oday Aboushi. He says, Arjun, what is PFF's opinion/grade on Oday Aboushi? And he also added that he feels like he's been a little bit underrated or maybe not getting the credit that he deserves.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So right now in the regular season, we have Oday graded at a 66.1 overall. He has a 70.2 pass blocking grade, 66.2 run blocking grade, which is, pretty good. Like that's pretty much where he's been for most of his career. He's only allowed 5 pressures on 190 snaps, pass blocking snaps. So that's like a 2.6 pressure percentage. And he allowed 0 pressures in the Washington and in the Las Vegas game, which is pretty good. So I think overall he has been as good, maybe a little bit better than advertised. And like I know Duke Manyweather has put some clips out on Twitter about how good he's looked and helping out Storm Norton with like double teams and things like that. So I think overall Oday's been a pretty good signing so far.
Yeah, and I think I'll have to help out Storm Norton this week, or we'll see if he's helping out Storm Norton this week based on events that are happening with pregnancies. Those are always unpredictable. But yeah, so he'll have to help out Storm Norton, whoever is playing right tackle with Myles Garrett. I think that's going to be a problem. But I generally think Oday Aboushi's been pretty good. I mean, for the value that they're paying him, they're only paying $1.6 million, which is basically like what Forrest Lamp and a lot of these, replacement tackles that the Chargers have had over the last few years have been getting. And he's kind of been better than them. I think he's only had 5 pressures so far in 4 games. I think Lamp last year had like 40 over the course of the season. So he's definitely a little bit better in that regard. And he's also had the responsibility of helping out Storm Norton, which I think changed the dynamic when Brian Bulaga went down. We'll see if Brian Bulaga comes back at some point. But for the value he's at, I mean, really, to me, kind of how I read into the PFF grades, you sort of look at like anyone who's sort of above a 60 is kind of more passable and good, in theory. Sam Tevi was sort of like the only guy for the Chargers last year, and maybe Storm Norton a little bit too, who was in that kind of category, Bulaga whenever he played. So I think he's a good passable play, and with the other guys that they have on the offensive line and Slater and Lindsley, that's kind of all you need from him. So I think it's been good so far. All right, I'm going to ask you, this is from James. He said he feels like Abushi's been better than Filer. So I'm going to ask you from 1 to 5. I think I know who the obvious 1 and 5 are. power rank the Chargers starting offensive line from best O lineman to worst.
Like, if I'm being honestly, I'm just going left to right. Like, that's how I'd rank
Okay.
them.
Okay.
So I think Filer's been a beast in the run game. Like, I looked at some all 22 tape, and like he like moves people, and like that's a big dude. Like, he's like 6'6", I believe. And like Abushi's pretty big also, but like Filer, like he opens up gaps on the left side. And while his pass blocking stuff hasn't been like, like great, I do think like his run blocking makes up for it. And like it's not like he's allowing a sack or pressure like at a large enough clip.
Right.
But yeah, obviously I'd go left to right. Slater's been far and away the best.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of true. Yeah, I think left to right is the right order as well. You can kind of rank Lindsley and Filer, I think, in any way you wanted personally, but I think that's definitely, we're talking Slater number 1, Norton unfortunately number 5, which is kind of what he's supposed to be as a replacement lineman. So we have a couple people going to the game in the chat, so that's going to be exciting. Let us know in the chat. Obviously, if you have any questions for us, now is the time to do that, since that was our only Patreon question of the week. So hit us up with those questions in the chat, and let us know if you're going to the game tomorrow. All right. What are your general thoughts about the Browns game? What are you kind of most optimistic about? What are you most concerned about?
Yeah, my opinion on the Browns has kind of changed a little bit. Like, I thought this was going to be like a really hard matchup even at the beginning of the week, but like I don't think they look that good versus the Vikings or the Bears, like two like pretty solid defenses. I think Baker's starting to fall into that like Kirk Cousins category, if you know what I mean. Like, it's lucky like the Browns are lucky he's on a rookie contract to where like he's not as detrimental to the team as like Kirk is, which that sounds weird, but like because Baker's on a rookie contract, they can afford to get all these good players, John Johnson, Troy Hill, Clowney. But the way he looked against the Vikings and the Bears, it makes me question like what is his value? Like I'm pretty sure Josh Allen and Lamar were in that like 40 mil category, even though Baker shouldn't have been. But given his, I guess, success in the league so far, and he did make it to the playoffs, and I believe he won on the road last year, I think he's going to get a lot of money, even though I don't think his playback set up. The Browns overall have been, I would say, like an average offense. Like, they rank like 14th in EPA per play. Their run game is obviously, one of the best in the league. We don't really need to go too much into that. But I'd be most optimistic, honestly, about our defense putting the clamps on their offense. I would worry a little bit about our offense, like being able to move the ball down the field, because I posted a graph on Twitter which shows like the Browns are pretty much running a too high safety defense. Like, they rank 4th behind the Rams, Broncos, and Chargers in too high looks. So I'm a little worried to see like what kind of offense we're going to be running. Like, and I worry that because they're running a lot of too high looks, we're going to run the ball more. And I do think the Browns have a really good run defense, especially on the edge.
Yeah, and I think people will go back to Monday's game when they sort of ran the ball a lot in the second half. Obviously, a bit of a different situation because they kind of had that game in control the whole time and were in the lead. So if you do get out to that, then I think that's easier to do against the Browns. But if you don't start with the lead, then it's hard to put the Chargers' current run game against sort of what the Browns' run game is right now. Like, I don't think that's necessarily too close. Going into some other questions. This is from Jarrett, who asks, has Bosa dropped back into coverage this year as expected?
Okay, yeah. So we have him with 5 coverage snaps, and 4 of them came against the Raiders this past week.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, like I kind of downplayed the whole notion that he's going to be playing like Khalil Mack or even like Von Miller throughout the offseason. Like, you're not paying Joey freaking Bosa $25 million to play coverage, right? And like, obviously you want to mix it up here and there, but he's going to go after the quarterback. So only 5 coverage snaps, 4 coming in 1 week. So I guess based on the expectations that he's going to be doing it 2 or 3 times every game, he has been doing it less than expected.
Yeah, I think based on what the expectations were, at least mine prior to the season, I always thought it was kind of like 5 or fewer snaps every game. I really didn't buy into it either personally. That like they're just going to use Joey Bosa to like cover a tight end or like do stuff like that. Just because I don't see the value in that, and obviously he's much more valuable as a pass rusher. Obviously, based on the play, you might need to do it, but I don't think that it's going to be too heavy really in either game, especially not really against the Browns or the Ravens. I don't see him dropping back into pass coverage in those 2 games too often either. This comes from Christian Castillo. So general question about the offense. Obviously, the Chargers offense has not been explosive in terms of putting up points yet. They haven't had a game where I think they put up more than 30. But is this kind of the week that you could see them, exploding a little bit, getting a little bit more dynamic, or is this sort of what the offense is going to be, through the duration of the season?
That's a good question. Honestly, like I think this week is going to be a little bit low scoring, but I would take the Chargers over, because I don't know. I think their offense is getting better every week, and like now they're, I guess, more balanced, which is, I guess a good thing that they can run the ball. But obviously, we want to be an explosive passing offense. Did you watch the all in thing yesterday where Staley was like bum ass offense? Like you can't have a bum ass offense.
Well, yeah, he also said on all in. I think the first episode was we're gonna throw that shit down the field.
Yeah,
So that's been a consistent theme for him throughout the season.
Yeah, so that's my thing. Like I think it's good to have balance, but you still want to be all in on passing, or mostly all in. But if you look at the injury report, I don't have it. I kind of have it, if I remember correctly. So Greg Newsome's out tomorrow, I believe, and then Denzel Ward and Troy Hill are both questionable, and like I don't think they practiced at all, or if they did, it was limited on Friday, right? So like this could be a very like shaky secondary we see from Cleveland tomorrow. And hopefully, we get Mike Will back on track, and like Keenan has been used like Jarvis Landry, unfortunately, for the past 2 weeks. So, with a weaker secondary, maybe we see a little more explosive passing game. So I would say that the Chargers are going to put up more than 24 points just based on, the Browns being extremely injured based on their injury report, of course.
Yeah, and I think Greg Newsome is officially out. So that's going to be, tough for them. And then they have a bunch of guys that are in that questionable category that we'll see if they play. Notable for them is that Hubbard, their backup swing tackles out, so that puts more pressure on someone like Jedrick Wills, who's been injured, to play. And then there's a lot of guys in questionable, but I think most of those are probably going to play. I think Denzel Ward is really sort of the only weird one who's dealing with a neck, which is kind of tough. But Myles Garrett, questionable. He's going to play. Don't have much doubt about that. And then you got someone like Jadeveon Clowney and some other guys that I think are going to see the need to play in this game as well. Our next question comes from NB Talent, who gave us a $5 super chat. LA is known to be home to a lot of different football teams, but it should be a home game tomorrow, right? I've never been to California, so I'm going to let Arjun answer this one and say whether or not he thinks the Chargers will have home field advantage.
Yeah, I think we will. I mean, I don't know. I don't think Browns fans travel too well. I think they're very good in their own stadium, but I wouldn't see why a lot of Cleveland fans would be in LA, and even then, SoFi's so big, you could have an even mix, and still you would hear more Chargers fans, and they have been playing well, so that would I hope that would get more fans to go watch the games instead of sell their ticket.
Yeah, and I think it was 75-25 in the Chargers-Raiders game for sure in favor of the Raiders, but they still did get the Raiders to burn 2 timeouts in the first 10 minutes of that one. And, Chargers fans can be loud when they want to be, even if they are in a disadvantaged position like they were against, say, Dallas and the Raiders. But Steven was talking to a Browns guy who said there are some travel plans, but we'll see how that goes. Obviously, that could just be Browns fans talking a lot after the Monday night game. So we'll see how many actually show up. But I definitely think it'll at least be majority Chargers fans. I don't see why it shouldn't be. But even if it's not, like, I think the Chargers have proven themselves kind of again and again that they are just going to kind of grind it out either way. It was really impressive for them to run the offense like they did against the Raiders, even with all the noise. And if you get a lead early, it shuts everyone up in the stadium. So that's a good thing.
I was gonna point out one more thing, and I was gonna say if like you noticed also, but like if I watch the Raiders back a little bit and I watch the Chiefs back, and it does seem, and I didn't really notice it in the Cowboys too much, but like in both our wins the past 2 weeks, we've been using a silent count on like a large majority of the snaps. And it's like, I was talking to Steven about this, like, so Filer, he's at left guard and he's like looking back at Herbert, like over his shoulder. And when Herbert lifts his leg, he'll tap Lindsley on like the thigh or something. And then Lindsley will snap it. So apparently this is like standard procedure. But I do find it impressive that in an offseason where they've had to go through like a completely new offense, new head coach, new center, and like Herbert's only in his second year where he didn't have to deal with much noise last year. They have been pretty effective, and like doesn't seem like there's many miscommunications with the silent counts, which is good to see. And hopefully they won't need it this week or tomorrow, because like using a silent count kind of like gives up the advantage of like hard counts and stuff like Aaron Rodgers does and Patrick Mahomes does very well.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the Chargers want to do that too. Like, they want to be able to go on the field on fourth down and, like, fake out the defense. Are they going for it? Are they not? And draw a 5-yard penalty. Like, that would be really advantageous to them. But yeah, so I definitely think they've been doing well with the silent counts. There have been miscommunications, like the Filer Slater thing last week, where I think there were sort of 2 sacks given up there on miscommunications between those guys. But in the broad scheme of things, I think they've done pretty well at handling it. This also comes from Christian. What are your defensive stat predictions tomorrow versus the Browns? And thoughts on Derwin James' workload? Obviously, he's sort of been managing toe and shoulder injuries throughout the season, but still has played in every game. And Kenneth Murray is still on injured reserve with that ankle, at least for the next 2 weeks, I think, after this one. But so what are your defensive stat predictions tomorrow, and thoughts on Derwin's workload so far?
Okay, I think Nasir gets a pick tomorrow. Ooh. I do think like they're gonna try to run a lot of play action to get Baker to try to like help the offensive linemen. So like they'll probably run some crossers, and I do expect a Baker overthrow right into Naz's hands. So like that would be my prediction. I think we'll have a couple sacks. Or I think we'll have like 1 or 2 sacks. Either Bosa or another one of the edge players. I think their interior is like probably the best in the league. So as much as Tillery looked good against the Raiders, like against like Simpson and like Jermaine,
Eleanor, something like that.
Yeah. He's going against Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller and like JC Treader. So that would be my basic predictions. Derwin, I would say just go read Popper's article about it. Like he's been used pretty much everywhere. I have something planned for the end of the season to check really like how versatile Derwin has been. But yeah, I think Derwin's played awesome outside of the Ruggs 50-yard bomb.
Yeah, outside of that, and then I guess when they never really specified what happened with his shoulder, but when he dislocated his shoulder in the Chiefs game, and then he was back like 2 minutes later. So the Chargers defense struggled for a while without him there, but then he came back in the game, and they did pretty well with the Chiefs, just kind of handling that. So he's been versatile, and like Popper said in his article, he's kind of been wearing 5 hats, all the time. Yeah. This comes from James. Do you see Merrill getting more snaps on Sunday? So I think he had 3 snaps, but 3 productive snaps against the Raiders, and was able to kind of keep some run plays in check. What do you think what do you see Merrill's snap count being against a more run-heavy team with, say, healthier running backs than Jacobs at the moment?
Yeah, I think it depends if they go up, if the Chargers start with the lead like they have been, or if they go down early like they did versus the Cowboys. Because once the Browns go up, they're just gonna run the ball. Like
Right.
that's kind of been their thing. Like they have like I think I talked about it in one of my videos, but like the Browns have like a -7% pass rate over expected. So like they're gonna run the ball more than expected, and they're gonna
Hmm.
do it especially when they're winning. So just like Staley talked about, we need to get up early against the Chiefs, and then we got to like eliminate explosive plays. I think it's more important to go up against the Browns so that they can't just control the game with their run game. And if they do, you're going to force guys like Merrill. I don't know if they're going to bring up Fehoko or not. Like you're going to force more run stoppers to be on the field, and so once they run play action, you're going to have no pass rush, right? So
Hmm.
ideally, we won't see Merrill too much, but I think if it gets to a point where they're getting gashed in the run game, I mean, he has looked pretty solid when you say against the run.
Yeah, I think Merrill's looked really solid. Definitely has surpassed what my expectations would have been. Prior to that game, I was really concerned when Justin Jones got placed on IR, and it was just like, okay,
Yeah.
well, here it comes. I think obviously they were helped by Josh Jacobs clearly not being 100%, and the
Mhm.
Raiders' interior line situation. But I trust Forrest Merrill to play at least 10 snaps if that's necessary of him. I think my main concern is what Tillery is like in those scenarios, because I think he's been good at handling them the last 2 weeks, but
Yeah.
against this Browns team it is a little bit different. But I generally trust Joseph, Covington, and Merrill to hold up pretty well against the run, at least as well as they can.
Yeah.
Uh, Phoenix Flame asks us, what do you think about signing Mitchell Schwartz? Not sure how close he is to being healthy. I think he's like quasi-retired because
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I saw a picture of him at the Eagles-Chiefs game last week, and it looked like he had dropped a lot of weight. So I don't think he's anywhere close to playing right now. Maybe he comes back in a future season, of course, but I think he's still dealing with that back and is kind of recuperating from that and taking this year off. He played obviously deep into last year before he wasn't able to play in the Super Bowl. So yeah, I don't see Mitchell Schwartz being a solution at least this year.
Yeah. Me neither. I wouldn't go for an injured player right now, given like that health is like something Staley's preached pretty much like the whole season.
Yeah, and I mean, we already have a tackle with a back issue. Like,
Yeah.
who's dealing with it on IR?
What are we
Unfortunately,
doing
right
here?
now.
Right.
Do we need to? Um, this comes from Mario Flores. Is this the game we finally see a big deep shot touchdown from Justin Herbert?
Okay. So like I'm gonna ask you first. Like, do you
Mhm.
think this offense needs a 50-yard pass every week?
Not personally. I mean, I think the thing is more just having Jalen Guyton on the field, right? Because I think if you have
Yeah.
him, then the defense has to pay attention to him, much like the Chiefs did 2 weeks ago when they actually double covered him on some plays.
Mhm.
So I think in that situation, that's where you want to have Jalen Guyton on the field. But, they've been taking deep shots, right? It's just more, if you talk about it, it's less 50-yard shots and more like 20-plus-yard shots,
Yeah.
to Jared Cook or to Mike Williams, Keenan Allen here and there, right? I don't think they necessarily need a 50-yard bomb touchdown. I mean, it would be fun, fun to watch.
Mhm.
Obviously, it would give the offense a little bit of a breather. But I don't think it's something that's a necessity. I think what's more of a necessity is having field stretchers, and where I would become concerned with the offense is if something happens to Jalen Guyton, they don't have Tyron Johnson to stretch the field with
Yeah.
his speed this year, then you're sort of relying on KJ Hill. You could call it Jason Moore, but Jason Moore does not have, the speed that those guys have. So that's my real concern, personally.
Yeah. So I asked that because like so far through weeks 1 through 4, the Chargers rank fifth in passing plays of more than 15 yards, which like I forget who the coach was that said this, but like he defined explosive plays as passing plays of over 15 yards and rushing plays of over 10 yards. So the Chargers have the
Mm-hmm.
fifth most explosive passing plays through 4 weeks. Like you don't need you don't need the deep ball. Like there's a lot of stuff that like you want to scheme that could get yards after the catch or like more intermediate stuff. And like this is one thing that like I knew was going to come back down to earth for Herbert was like he was going to regress in the deep ball category. Like you can't just rely on a large part of your production coming from deep balls. So like even though he's regressed in that category, he's improved so much in the intermediate game. Like his accuracy on intermediate throws is pretty good right now. So I would say like I don't expect them to have a 50-yard bomb this week either, just because the Browns are playing that too high defense. So they're going to try to limit explosive plays also. I could be wrong and they could have a busted coverage at some point. But I would more focus on like how many, like are we just doing short routes or we're also focusing on intermediate stuff, which I think they've had a good balance so far.
Yeah, I think you more take advantage of busted coverages. Frankly, I haven't been like thrilled with what Lombardi has drawn up as far as deep shots because he called a flea flicker last week.
Yeah.
And I nearly threw something at my TV. That was pretty bad. But yeah, no, I think it's just more you want to hit stuff that's 15 to 20 yards, and that's good enough. Like, I really don't think you need big 50-yard shots. And plus, defenses have tape of Herbert. Defenses have tape of Guyton. Yeah. Like, I just don't think that was going to sustain at quite the rate it was. Obviously, I think here and there, like, there would have been a touchdown last week that would have been over 50 yards if Herbert didn't overthrow Mike Williams on that one pass. Yeah. But, I don't think it's a necessity that they need every week, personally. All right, time to get a little bit controversial. This comes from Joseph. Is Drew Tranquill better than Kenneth Murray?
Yes, right now he is.
Okay,
and like, it's evident in the tape. I think some of the stats would back it up. More effective as a blitzer, which is like the opposite. Like we would expect Kenneth to be better as a blitzer and Drew to be better in coverage, but Drew's been excellent as a blitzer. I'm gonna bring up a point. So I don't want it to sound like super degrading towards Kenneth Murray, but like there's an idea that like Kenneth Murray getting hurt, even though he's a starter, him getting hurt is a positive EV thing for the Chargers. If like, do you know what that, like what I'm trying to get at, like positive expected value?
Yeah, positive expected value. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the best way to explain it is like the Raiders getting Josh Jacobs back, even though he's a starter, was negative EV for them because they ran the ball more on first and second down when Carr's like been one of the best passers in the league. Mm-hmm. So, for the Chargers, I do think Drew's been better. I don't know what it's going to look like when Kenneth comes back after the bye week, which is like when his target, I think, is. But yeah, I mean, Drew's been pretty good. It's fun to see him and Kaiser blitz, which is like something we never saw them do with Gus Bradley. And like, I think the best part about Drew is like, because he's been so effective as a blitzer, it does seem like offensive lines are dedicating one guy specifically to him, allowing Joey Bosa to get more one-on-ones on the edge, which is nice.
Yeah, I always thought that the Drew Tranquill stuff was weird because, I mean, he sort of was on the pace during the Anthony Lynn, administration back in 2020 to like, he was poised to have that breakout year. And then they draft Kenneth Murray. Then he gets hurt in the Bengals game and doesn't come back for the season. So I always thought that was weird. And then you have this coaching staff overhaul that didn't draft Kenneth Murray. And so they've, at least so far out of necessity, but even before Kenneth Murray got hurt, they were putting Drew Tranquill in there more, or at least starting to increase his snaps. So yeah, no, I don't think it's a controversial take at all, actually, to say Drew Tranquill is better than Kenneth Murray. And I think that, in terms of the last administration's draft picks, like, I think that they should just purely go based on who are the best players right now. Like, sucks that you spent a 4th round pick out of Josh Kelly and hasn't played at all. But like, that's just something you need to move on from in some regards. And I'd say the same thing with Kenneth Murray. If Drew Tranquill and Kaiser White are playing better right now.
Yeah. And knowing what we know about Staley, like, I'm sure if he had the chance, he would have reversed that decision to trade up, which is like anti-analytics, and then take a linebacker in the 1st round, which is like even more anti-analytics, right? So you got to like really wonder how much he like wanted Kenneth Murray, even though like, he's kind of stuck with him. Like, you don't really know that that's his guy, or like Drew might be his guy just because of like, other reasons. Like I think everyone was on the same playing field when Staley came in, but I do think like Staley won't make those same decisions that like Anthony Lynn made just because Kenneth Murray has great character, and like obviously that matters inside the locker room, and it should, but the type of move that Anthony Lynn made, and it did seem like it was more Anthony Lynn wanting to get Kenneth Murray more than Telesco, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I do think that's Staley doesn't have any connection with Murray that he has to play him over Tranquill, if that makes sense.
So this also follows up on the Kenneth Murray topic from Mike. In regard to K9, do you think it's more an issue of him learning the playbook or being used the wrong way by the coaches?
I mean, I don't think he's being used the wrong way per se. I just don't think I don't think he's picked up what they want him to do fast enough. Which is like it's only the first couple of games of the season, and like more reps will help him. And maybe that ankle injury he had in the scrimmage has been lingering, and like we really don't know what it's like for him. So I'm not gonna like throw too much shade at him for that. But yeah, it doesn't seem like he's been like the run stuffer that we expected him to be outside of that Washington game where he had a couple of nice stops. And in coverage, I mean, he hasn't looked great either. Hasn't like really made any plays on the ball as like someone like Kaiser has.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's either a playbook issue or a coach's issue. I think it's just sort of been like reaction time, and Steven sort of brought up how like whenever he's going into tackling, he's sort of letting the tackle come to him a little bit as opposed to tackling himself. So I think he hasn't quite been as surefire in that regard. I don't think it's necessarily either. I would lean towards it being playbook issue as opposed to a coach's issue, considering that like Brandon Staley's kind of maximized everyone else on defense. And so I don't think the coaches can be using too many players wrong in that regard. All right, let's see what else we have here. This comes from Mario again. Do you see an issue in those 4 or 5 drives per game where the offense seems to be off, or is that just good defensive adjustment from the other team so far?
I mean, like, very few offenses can really score every drive.
Right.
So, like, they're not going to, like, put up points every single drive. But, yeah, there's a couple of drives where it's just, like, run on first down, weird play call on second down, and then you're left with a third and long, and, like, they don't really do much on that drive. So, yeah, you're going to have a couple of throwaway drives. So I wouldn't like be too concerned with that. It's not like it's happening too often. Maybe the third quarter where it's just like, actually, I'm going to take that back. The third quarter has been defensive lapses instead of offensive. But yeah, I mean, I would like to see them like if they run the ball on first down, and they don't get any yards, I would like to see them throw it on second and long, just because like if you run it again and you get behind the sticks, then you're kind of screwed on third down. So I would say like the offense has looked off, but it's nothing really too much to worry about.
Yeah, I think it's definitely just sort of like a early down play calling issue, right? Like, what are you doing on second down, right? And then also, I think definitely in the Raiders game, it was more defensive lapses, right? I mean, they give up those 2 touchdowns to the Raiders, and then sort of find themselves in a pretty bad position, then adjusted nicely back to them. But yeah, I don't think it's a long-term issue, and a lot of it is just are you converting on those plays or not, right? In the case of the Jalen Guyton thing against the Chiefs, right? If he catches that touchdown, they're up 21-0, right? Like, but instead they go into the half. What was it, like 14-10, something like that? And then I think it was a little bit similar against the Raiders in some regard because Herbert misses Mike Will. They do go in and have 21-0, but that could have been 28 or bigger, right? So I think it's just about execution on some level. This comes from NV Talent. As a Chargers fan, I have PTSD for 1-score games. Don't we all? In the fourth, do you see many 1-score games in the fourth, or do you see maybe more games where they start to kind of dominate and control a little bit more?
I mean, I think right now it's going to be a lot more 1-score games. Like, I don't know what has been up with this third quarter defense. Like, like Brandon Staley last year was by far the best second half defense. Like, he was running the best second half defense, and like to see them struggle in the third quarter, it's like what's going on. Like maybe the offenses are just like making better adjustments. I do think like I do think like when the Chargers have like a big penalty, like an unnecessary roughness or roughing the passer, it always turns into like a touchdown on that drive. Like, and so that's kind of frustrating to watch. And I don't know, like sometimes like the play calling seems like super vanilla, like when they have a lead instead of like keeping the foot on the gas. But like I think that's still growing pains. And like I mean they've literally played like three of the best teams in the league so far. Or like I thought the Raiders are overrated, but like they're still 3-0, and like you know can't like expect to blow out every single team, and like we still have a pretty tough schedule going into the bye.
Yeah, I mean, like to me, there's nobody on their schedule that they should have blown out. I guess, right? Like
Yeah.
Washington has, even though they've regressed a little bit on defense, they have a they have a quarterback who can throw the ball now a little bit, and Taylor Heineke, who came into that game and gave him some juice. Dallas obviously has a high-powered offense with Zeke and Pollard, and now they have guys on defense that are starting to look like stars, which is concerning as an NFC East fan. But yeah, I mean, other than that, like, did I expect to blow out the Chiefs? No. Did I expect to blow out the Raiders? No. I think you get
nice,
into it would be nice. I mean, they won by 14 in fairness, but it wasn't quite like a blowout kind of game. I think the area where you might start to see some more multi-score win games in the schedule is you do have a stretch that's Patriots, then I think Eagles, and I think they play the Steelers in prime time, and the Steelers look like they're falling apart at the seams because of Big Ben. So I don't think that that's going to be a particularly competitive game at this point, and I think that's in danger of getting flexed out of Sunday Night Football, actually. Potentially based on where the Steelers are. I think that they'll get some of the easier games that are going to come up. They play the Vikings at some point, so definitely that Eagles, Vikings. Who do they play? Oh, Patriots, Eagles, Vikings, Steelers stretch out of the bye is easier than what they started the season with.
Yeah, and I'm just so PFF, like I know, like I don't know how much people like care or don't care about PFF, but like some of our research and development teams, like the data scientists, like they put together like a power rankings thing on the website. So like right now, the Chargers have had the third hardest schedule to start the year. Only the Steelers and the Vikings have had a tougher start, and we're 3-1, right? Like so, like despite having the third hardest schedule, like still starting 3-1. Yeah, the games haven't been like blowouts, and like they have let the other teams back in the game, but like you're playing, they played three really good teams the past 3 weeks, and I think they've held their own pretty well.
Yeah. I tend to agree on all those points. This comes from Ross Ackerman. He asks, how are the Chargers doing with EPA per play?
Yeah, so right now they're 6th in EPA per play on offense. They have a 0.102, which is so they're right below the Niners and right above the Bucks, which is really good to have a top 6 offense. Defensively, they are 10th, which is awesome given that they played the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Raiders, all who have pretty much top 10 offenses to start the year. They're 8th in passing defense, and they are 24th in rushing defense. Where they were bottom 3 before the Raiders game. So shout out to Josh Jacobs.
Shout out to Josh Jacobs being injured. I think they're pretty much doing as well as they can in every area as far as EPA per play is concerned. Obviously, the run defense is what it is, and I think they'll probably kind of be in that position at least until the end of the season, although there's a couple things they can do to get better. I think that they're pretty okay with EPA per play, at least for now. All right. What else do we have? This comes from Ben. Do you think we'll start to see more Derwin plays at the line of scrimmage if Nas keeps improving? Are those things related? Or do you see more plays of them using Derwin as a pass rusher a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tough question, actually. I think the only way they'll use him as an edge rusher is when they play dime. So he'll be money, and like money can play anywhere pretty much. And so in that case, like I'll ask you, would you rather see Chris Harris Jr. at safety and then you bring on like Tavon Campbell as star, or you play Gilman at safety, Chris Harris at star, and Derwin at money? And those are like, they have a ton of combinations they can use depending on like what the offense is showing. But like, what would you want to see in that situation?
I'd probably take Chris Harris and Tavon Campbell. I think just because I like what Tavon's been giving this defense a little bit more than what Gilman's been giving them. But yeah, no, I definitely think, they can start. They have done it at times, right? It's not like they're never using Derwin as a pass rusher. But I think, with Chris Harris out, it's just been hard because he's had to, play the slot. So I think they'll free up Derwin a little bit this week. We'll see how many snaps Chris Harris plays this week coming back. Tristan asks, are you concerned with Keenan Allen having very little yards per target, at least in relative to other seasons?
I think last season his yards per target were going down for sure.
Yeah.
And I do think it's pretty I thought the first 2 games they were using him more deep intermediate part, but like I don't know. I don't know what's up with Keenan Allen. I think it's more of the play calling than anything. Like especially on first down, it doesn't. I think the first down like aggression hasn't been there from Joe Lombardi, and it does seem like they're just running a lot of like spot concepts or like a lot of curls where let's just pick up 5-6 yards, make it a manageable second down, and usually that's where Keenan Allen thrives. And I think that I'm not concerned with Keenan Allen's yards per target as much as I'm concerned with his drops. Like he has 4 drops right now, second in the league. For someone that prides themselves on like having really good hands, which he's made some great catches this year, I would be more worried about his hands and like how the Chargers are using him, and I do expect it to get better as the season goes on.
Yeah, I'm much more concerned about the drops thing. I don't know if like it's contagious and like Jalen Guyton gave it to him or something, but it's definitely been a problem as far as the drops are concerned. So yeah, maybe they need to clean the Chargers facility of that. But yeah, no, I'm the yards per target were going down, I think, last year because they also had a little bit less confidence in Herbert coming from Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
Like Phillip Rivers would throw into triple coverage and just shove it in there. So I always thought that was gonna come down with Herbert a little bit. I'll say that I do think his yards per target will probably increase by the end of the year relative to where it is now, as long as the drops go down, right? Because he had a 20-yard or what should have been like a 25-yard catch on that ball he dropped when Perriman was in coverage. So that's kind of the thing with him. But I'm not too concerned as of now. Quick commercial break. You guys can go to tickpick.com/charge10. We got the wrong code last time, and so some of you pointed that out to us that you weren't getting $10 off your tickets. But if you want last-minute tickets to this Chargers-Browns game, you can go to tickpick.com/charge10 to get $10 off of your first ticketing purchase. TickPick takes out all of those secret fees that you have that maybe other websites will put there. So go to tickpick.com/charge10 to get $10 off of your Chargers Browns tickets this week or whatever you want to go. Kevin asks, can you get vaccinated for the case of the drops? I don't think you can. Otherwise, they would have tried that with Jalen last year. So I don't think you can get vaccinated for that. This comes from Bengawood. Do you see our defense? Where do you see our defense ranking by the end of the season? Have these first games been outliers, or is this the quality of play we can generally come to expect?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a top 5 defense by the time the season's over. I said it in the offseason. I expect this defense to be better than the offense just because I trust Staley so much and like a little bit more than Lombardi. And like he knows, like he tailors his game plans around the offense, which is like, we had talented defenses with Gus Bradley, but like it's not like he ever. The one game I felt like I ever saw some change was like when we played the Saints last year, and we played a little more like cover 2, cover 4, like instead of cover 3 because Drew Brees couldn't push the ball down the field. But even then, in the second half, it just seemed like we reverted back to that cover 3. So the Chiefs game, I don't think they played that well, honestly. Like I think the turnovers were just like a little bit fluky. Like you're not going to force 2 fumbles every game. Mahomes is not just gonna like throw 2 picks. But it was the Raiders game was super encouraging, and like, this is a new scheme. I expected them to start a little bit slow, so it is nice that they had a bounce back game against the Raiders. And after the bye, they are going to be going up against like some pretty weak ass offenses, so their ranking is going to improve for sure. And as long as I would say Derwin, Asante, Michael Davis, and Bosa and Nasir stay healthy, like those are the key 5 guys I would say that have to stay healthy. I mean, I would say they could finish top 5, top 3 easily.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely think getting easier games will help your defensive ranking somewhat. They get the Giants later in the year too. The Bengals aren't looking like a cupcake game, but we'll see how they sort of pan out over the next few weeks and months. They are.
You think they legit? I don't think they're that legit.
I think they can be a wild card team, but I don't think they're going to win the division. I think they could be like a 7 seed or the 6 seed, just because they have that offense. But so I can see them winning 9-10 games because they're already started 3-1, and frankly, they're probably going to have another win against the Steelers because the Steelers look really bad. So I think that they can get a wild card win, but I don't see them being a true contender in any way. Although I will say, Joe Burrow's look good. Jamar Chase has looked good, and the offensive line, at least for them, hasn't looked quite as bad as people expected. So, there's a chance for them to be a wild card team probably. But to me, I still think the Ravens or Browns run that division one way or the other. Mario's talking about them bum ass offenses, like Staley said in the Charged Up episode. This comes from NSN. Are teams going to bracket Keenan and Mike Williams the way that the Raiders did and make them less effective?
I mean, I'm not like a defensive coordinator, so I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think bracketing is I think bracketing only happens based on the defensive coordinator. So like, against the Ravens, I would expect them to bracket them because like they're a man blitz heavy team. So like they'll probably use the safety to help out on Keenan and Mike. But I think this Chargers team, if any, has shown that like they have a 3rd, 4th, and 5th receiving option with like Cooks looked really good. And like, I know a lot of people were bummed about losing Hunter Henry, but we got Cook for like, I think it was $8 million less, but he has like 6.5 and like it's 1 year 4.5, right? In base.
Yeah.
6.5 and like extra stuff, right?
I think in total contract value it's 13 minus 6 so it's like 7-8 million.
Yeah. So we have the guys that can get open if Keenan and Mike get bracketed but like I think the way that this Chargers offense has looked with all the personnel and like the different personnel packages and formations, you're not going to be able to like bracket Keenan and Mike for most of the game. And like, if that happens, then, I feel confident that Staley will have a game plan to get them open at some point.
Yeah. I think they also like bracketing is sort of a pick your poison kind of thing, because like, even if you bracket Keenan and Mike Williams, like the reality is that someone's going to be open. Like Jared Cook is going to have a favorable matchup, or someone else in the offense will. Whether it's them running the ball, Austin Eckler might be open on a play. So I think you can bracket and get away with it, but I don't think you're going to see Keenan and Mike Williams get double covered, in some cases triple covered, like they were against the Raiders. The Raiders also sort of had to do that out of necessity because Arnett went down in that game, and so that was sort of a struggle for them. I don't know if that was quite their plan going in. Envy Talent, who do you think will get the coveted pick 6 this year? We've had a turnover each game. I nominate Asante. I'm actually going to go and say I think Michael Davis is due for his Tom Brady Tampa pick. I feel like that's coming at some point. I've been really impressed with how he's played, so I'd like to see him get one of those kind of picks on Baker.
Yeah, you kind of took my pick, so I'll go in a different direction. I'll go with Kaiser White. I think he's been around the ball too much to where I think number one, he'll get a pick. And I think since he has been guarding more like running backs and like tight ends that are in the flats, someone will make a mistake at some point. And I think it could be this game. The Browns run a lot of 2 and 3 tight end packages because they have the personnel to do it. One errant throw by Baker, off some pressure by Bosa, just floating there, and Kaiser takes it to the house. And I mean, he's like the most hyped guy on the team, which is like super funny. Like he's always just like yelling at the opposing sideline. So I do think I would say Michael and Kaiser would be the two guys I'd expect it.
You said Mike Will?
Mike Davis.
Mike Davis, yeah. Well, Mike Will could get a pick if they just throw out those Hail Marys, because they put him and Keenan in that position before. Keenan had an interception against the Jets a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Tristan asks, what have the analytics shown for Baker Mayfield before and after his injury?
Good question. So he got hurt in week 2, right?
I think so.
Okay, I just need to pull that up real quick. Do you want to talk about the injury? It's to like his left shoulder, right? So not his throwing shoulder.
Yeah, it's not his throwing shoulder, but from what people have talked about, it's sort of like kind of affects your mobility and sort of what you're able to do, and also going through your reads to some extent, because there's just like the pain, and maybe you don't necessarily look to that side of the field as much. So even though it's not his throwing shoulder, I do still think it's giving him a lot of problems, and he probably can't get surgery on it, at least until the end of the year. So I think that's been like the general problem for sure.
Yeah, so real quick, in weeks 1 and 2, he ranked 7th in EPA. So that's looking at his efficiency. He ranked first in completion percentage over expected. So a pretty decent measure of his accuracy. So he was like super accurate to start the year. So that's weeks 1 and 2. So he was pretty much a borderline top 5 quarterback. But in weeks 3 and 4, I mean, he ranks 28th out of 33 quarterbacks in EPA per play, which is not good. He ranks 31st out of 33 quarterbacks in completion percentage over expected. So, it hasn't looked good, to put it bluntly, the past 2 weeks after he's got his injury. And I do expect that to continue this Sunday. Yeah.
I don't think Baker is going to be much of a threat to do much this Sunday. I think, I just think it's tough for him because it's clearly affecting everything else. And then they're also reinserting Odell back into the lineup, and there's been questions about that. So I think that this is just kind of what he's going to look like, at least until, he sort of gets more relief on it and starts to get used to playing with it. But it stinks for him that there's no solution in the intermediary. But also, the Baker hype has gotten to be a little bit too much, to the point where now Fox is like, who would you rather have, Baker or Herbert? I'm like, okay, guys, thanks. But let's see what else we got going on. I think this is a pretty easy question from Cameron, but do you think the Browns have a better offense or better defense?
Defense.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty straight up question. Myles Garrett and everybody with the defense over there. I don't think there's much to really talk about there. As much as Chubb and Hunt, scare people, I don't think their total defense is just the package that they're or total offense is what the defense brings right now. See what other questions we got in the chat. Give us some more questions. Arjun obviously is not going to games because he's at Michigan right now. So he's been going to Michigan games. How fun has that been?
Awesome. Like the big house is just like insane. And like when you have those like maize out or like wear blue type like stuff that happens on game days, I mean, just like the camaraderie of like all the students and like the alumni and parents, like it's super fun to see. So I mean, I was super glad that I was able to get in and like be able to go to games this year. So it's been awesome. Yeah,
I definitely think that's been better, and I will take the Michigan blue outs every day over Penn State whiteouts. Those I do not like. Let's go to I meant to go to Blue Deftone there. He asked, what do you guys think our defense will look like this Sunday? And are there any sort of changes with the injuries they have, particularly talking about Justin Jones, Kenneth Murray, and really anyone else who's on the injury report in a questionable capacity there? Obviously, expecting Harris to come back. So what do you think the defense kind of looks like this Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's going to be just like we've seen. I think Derwin's going to play closer to the line of scrimmage. Actually, I don't know. Like I think Chris Harris is a pretty good run defender. I think the question is like, do you want Derwin playing closer to the line of scrimmage because he'll be able to like help in run defense more. I do expect to see like a lot more 5-2 fronts, like the 3 interior guys, so Covington, Tillery, Linval, the 2 edge guys, 2 linebackers, and so Derwin will be playing pretty much at safety, or maybe even outside corner. I don't know, but like I think they will be dedicating more resources to stop the run just because the Browns' offensive line is that good. But when they go nickel, I think like Staley made a really interesting point in one of his press conferences. He's like, it doesn't matter how many players we have in the box. Like our safeties come down in run fits anyway. Like I think run fits is the term. So Derwin playing at safety instead of slot corner, it doesn't really like matter where he lines up. He's going to be playing in the run game. But I do think we'll play him more in the slot just because they want him closer to the line of scrimmage. And, he's probably a better tackler than Chris Harris is at this point.
Real quick, Joshua Farrell said, big trip in Penn State better. Just got to hit the Rutgers. Fuck Penn State in there because we chanted on every third down and we'll never stop.
Yeah.
Ben asks, do you think do your preseason record predictions change if we beat the Browns?
I mean, my predictions change when we beat the Chiefs. So, I mean, if we beat the Browns, we're Super Bowl bound at this point. Mm-hmm. But no, like I think. Sorry, you got it.
No, I was just gonna say, like, just in general, I think my preseason record prediction was 3-1 at this point, and then I had us losing to the Browns and Ravens and falling to 3-3. So I mean, obviously, if they beat the Browns and Ravens, my predictions definitely change based on what I just said. So that's going to be the interesting thing with these 2 games, and like I just think it gives them more margin for error later in the season, right? If you can get to 4-2, 5-1 before the bye, and before you start to play some interesting opponents, or easier opponents, I should say, then the record prediction, I think, definitely changes. And maybe you can go from 10-7 to 11-6, 11-6, 12-5, whatever you had before the season. NSN asks, where does our offensive line rank compared to the teams that the Browns have already played? So just going through their schedule, they played the Vikings, they played the Chiefs. Who are the other 2 opponents they played? Forgetting off the top of my head.
Vikings, Chiefs, Texans, Bears.
Okay. Yeah, that was the one I was forgetting. So how do our offensive lines, do you think, stack up against those?
Okay, so it was Vikings,
Bears, Chiefs, and Texans. I always forget them.
So we're definitely better than the Bears. We're better than the Vikings for sure. I think we're better than the Chiefs right now. And then Texans, like I don't think Texans have like a terrible offensive line, but like they could be a little bit better than us. I would say like we'd probably be second or even first out of those 5, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's first or second out of those 5. I think that's right. I think the only thing that's a concern is definitely Storm Norton. So, I mean, I actually want to ask you about that because someone asked in our chat earlier, do you think Slater will do a good job covering Myles Garrett? I would ask, do you think Slater is going to be covering Myles Garrett much at all? Or what do you think those dynamics are kind of going to be going into the game versus, is Garrett kind of going to be there early and then switch to Norton? What do you kind of expect?
No, I think it's going to be Slater against Garrett for the majority, if not all the game. So Garrett's played over the left tackle on about 82% of his snaps. So I don't expect that to change that much. And like, I think when you have like that good of a pass rusher, you don't like really care where you line him up. Like he's probably going to win at some point in the game. And like, that's no knock on Slater, but like Garrett, in my opinion, is like the best pass rusher in the game. And I think that one of the issues with Slater or like one of the things that he had, like people knocked him coming out of college was like his base, and like he's only 305 pounds, which is like kind of, I guess, kind of light for an offensive tackle, depending on like who you talk to. But he really impressed me with that Yannick Ngakoue rep, where like I think Tyler was talking about it in one of his videos, where like Slater had to go from under him and put like he got his ground back from Ngakoue. And Garrett's like power is insane. Like he has the speed and the power. Like, did you see that rep he had against Holton Hill where he just like shoved him back? Like he was trying to long arm and he just like just pushed him back, and like that's what I'm scared of for Garrett. Like I don't think he's gonna beat Slater around the edge because Slater is that athletic, but like I would worry about Garrett's power versus Slater's base, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, the concern, and just the fact that, I mean, Myles Garrett might have another sleeveless game, which would be, tough for the Chargers to handle in that way. And plus, they do have Jadeveon Clowney over there. Not that he's known for his pass rush, but I mean, at this stage in his career, but he can certainly still get after the quarterback on any given play. And I think, he can at least go up against Storm Norton on the other side if Garrett is mainly going to be on Slater. So, I don't think that that's too much of a concern, at least from the Browns standpoint. All right. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen Baldinger's breakdown on Slater? I don't know if you watched it or not.
No, I haven't.
No, I haven't watched it either. So Steven's probably watched like 5 hours of it with his offensive line session, but yeah, I have not. I've watched the all 22 of the Chargers game so far, but have not watched the Baldinger breakdown on Slater. I am unfortunately always going to be a wide receiver cornerbacks kind of guy.
Yes.
So Jarrett asks, do you think we move Bosa to go against the left tackle since the Browns are having left tackle issues? Obviously, referring to Jedrick Wills and that kind of thing. I would just say, I don't know if they're going to like stick him a whole place the entire game. They've been moving him inside, moving him, wherever he was kind of wanted to pass rush and whatever the play is called for. But I definitely think they could take at least a little bit of advantage of Jedrick Wills if he truly is still kind of injured. But what do you think about that?
As much as like that would be fun to think about, he's going to be playing at least like 70-80% on over the right tackle. So just based on his snaps alone, out of his 200 defensive line snaps, he's only had 34 snaps over the left tackle. So that's about 17%. So I would expect that number to stay true. Like he switched to Colton Miller a couple times in the Raiders game, but like he's primarily a beast over the right tackle. And I understand Jack Conklin's good, but like Joey Bosa is like also very, very good. And like he beat Ryan Ramczyk a couple times in that Saints game with playing with 3 injuries. So I would be confident that, he can handle himself against Jack Conklin. And like, even if he gets shut down, I'm sure Staley's going to find a way to get Bosa one-on-ones by, doing the Tranquill thing or, just with the wacky formations that he does.
Yeah, I mean, Bosa came off one leg really against the Chiefs and had one of the best games of his career. And then, obviously with the famous knee back tricep game against the Saints, the 3 injuries. Yeah. Tristan asks, how has an Nwosu performed this year, in your opinion?
I think he's been like what I expected, like nothing like too impressive, but he's done what he's needed to do. He's obviously going to be better in limited snaps because, he's going to have more rest. He's going to have a chance to play at 100% more often, I would say. But, 10 pressures in 4 games isn't great. But, he's been, I would say he's been winning his reps a lot in the pass game. It's just that the Chargers have gone against teams that like to get the ball out quick. And he didn't have a chance to really do anything against the Cowboys because the Cowboys had like a 2.3 time to throw. But I think he's like him and Fackrell have played at about like an equal level, to be honest.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this, yes or no, or if you can only re-sign one, who would you re-sign, Fackrell or Nwosu next year?
Damn. Uh, I mean, you kind of have to go with Nwosu. Like, I don't know. Like, he's younger. He probably offers more juice than Fackrell does. But I mean, I think that's to be determined. And like, if they resign
Yeah.
Fackrell over Nwosu, it's like whatever. Like, I would think Fackrell is more suited to back up Joey than he is like in Nwosu's as a speed edge rusher role. To be honest.
Yeah. I know there was a lot of like edge one hype, kind of Fackrell coming out of the preseason, but I think they've really just shown that they value both of them as supplementary pass rushers, even though Nwosu's still the starter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Fackrell's value would truly only increase. Yeah, as like you said, if he had to replace Joey for a game or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Christian says the tight ends need some love in this live cast. What have you thought about their usage of Cook, Parham, and Anderson to this point?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't show any love because like we didn't have any questions about it. But like,
Yeah,
I've loved this tight end room. Like Tyler yesterday, he posted what are your Chargers awards like things, and I said the biggest surprise has been Cook, and the best under the radar player has been Steven Anderson. And so like I know what this tight end room is bringing in. Like I think they've still underutilized Parham, but like how many targets can he really get with Eckler, Keenan, Mike, and Cook all in the picture, right? And so I mean, yeah, they look really good. And Cook was pretty much the reason they won that Raiders game with his ability to make that contested catch over Perriman and make a really, really nice jumping, diving grab in the end zone.
yeah. I think the tight ends have been great, really all of them, and they were all featured last game, which was fun. Friends of the show, Donald Parham and Steven Anderson. Jared Cook, you're welcome to come on the show anytime. But yeah, no, Jared Cook's been really impressive. Like that was kind of my question coming into this year, coming off of the Saints, season where he sort of started playing less towards the end of the season because the Saints drafted Troutman and had some other guys in that kind of tight end room, and Cook was getting older, but Cook looks like the same Cook that we've seen in Green Bay and Oakland. Like he still looks like that guy to me. I'm sure Frank Smith being there has like helped him out a lot. But, to me, still looks like the same Jared Cook, and they're paying him, like we said earlier in the show, $7-8 million less than they're paying Hunter Henry in New England. So I think that's been great. And, I just love those, throw out all the tall guys on the field when it comes to the red zone and doing all that. So it's been great to see that with Cook, Parham, and Mike Williams whenever they're out on the field, because that, to me, is sort of the way to go. All right, I'll say we have about 10 minutes left in this one, so we'll do some final questions. Get your final questions and super chats in. I guess this also relates to the tight end room. Blue Deftone asks, do you think that Parham should get more reps or keep Cook cooking?
Like I think the question you have to ask is like, do opposing defenses think it's going to be a pass when Parham's on the field? Because then that decreases Parham's value as like a player. Because if they expect it to be a pass and it is when Parham's on the field, it diminishes his value, and it's like you have to like I don't know what his run blocking stuff is. Like I'm not gonna I can use PFF grade if I want, but like, and I'll trust the opinion of like Steven or like some of the offensive line guys. But if he's shown improvement as a run blocker, there's no reason why he shouldn't be tight end 2. Cook should definitely be tight end 1, just given his experience and like how he knows how to attack coverages and things like that. But I mean, yeah, it's nice to see Parham get some action in the red zone, and he was due for a game with a touchdown, and like hopefully this continues where we're able to utilize his efficiency and like his height.
I'll ask you this because obviously Parham is a IRFA, I think, at the end of the year. And Anderson is a free agent. Cook is a free agent. If you're Tom Telesco, what would you do with the tight end room next year, building that out? Also including obviously Trey McKitty in the mix.
Oh wait, all 3 of them are free agents?
No. Well, Donald Parham is a exclusive rights free agent.
Okay.
So, but that's like the whole thing where if you give him the minimum salary, then he has to come back based on that rule. But Jared Cook and Anderson are free agents, and Kitty is still on the team.
I mean, so I think in that case, you definitely bring Parham back. if Cook has a good year, like, and he stays healthy, doesn't look like he's a liability with drops or anything, you bring him back another year, right? But
Mhm.
but then I think you let Anderson walk, and then you at that point, like, if you don't trust McKitty, then it was a wasted pick in round 3, similar
Yeah.
to many Tom Telesco picks, unfortunately. But it does seem like Brandon Staley trusts McKitty. It's just that the top 3 guys have been playing better, right? And hey, like maybe Steven Anderson grows into a better player, and then you let Cook walk, and then you have more money. So I don't know, maybe you get Devontae Adams and then Mike Williams. Well, I don't know. It's like there's a bunch of like crazy things you can throw out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you could throw out there, and I think just in general, like, they're going to use Trey McKitty at some point down the road, and I think they trust him enough. Brendan Hymes is someone who I think is probably a future tackle prospect as well. It's just everyone wants to see all the picks out on the field right now, and that's just never the reality of playing football. I think in today's NFL, but yeah, I definitely think they kind of have to re-sign Parham at some point just because it's so cheap with his or for rights, and
Might as well, right?
yeah, might as well. Like, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world. Like, they probably let go of Anderson and then maybe do like a Cook Parham McKitty thing next year, but obviously that's so much time between now and then, injuries and the draft, so we'll see what happens there. I did see an interesting question. K Rich asks, what are your thoughts on Michael Davis this year? Was he worth the extension?
Yeah, 100%. Like he's looked pretty good. Uh, the Chargers haven't allowed really the opposing team's number 1 receiver to just go off like they have in previous years, which is really nice. And like I think he's had his lapses in coverage, but like coverage is so streaky that like unless you're Jalen Ramsey, you're probably like you're gonna have your moments. But one thing that really like he needed to improve on was his tackling, and he was outstanding against the Raiders in my opinion. Like he had a couple stops against Jacobs, which is like in general a pretty tough guy to bring down. And I think he's due for a pick at some point, but it doesn't seem like teams are targeting him as often as they're like going after like Asante or like guys in the slot a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's true. And, that's a good thing. Like, if Michael Davis can sort of become like the guy that nobody, wants to target, then I think that's great. And that really sort of opens up the defense a lot. I thought he was always worth the extension. Frankly, I thought he was worth more than he got. I think he got 3 years, $24 million. Like, to me, that was a contract that I think, he could have gotten more on, frankly, just based on his skills, his intangibles, what he showed at the end of last year. But yeah, he's really left off of where he was last year. I think he's been a better tackler so far this year. So to me, it's really only been, a really high ceiling kind of year for him. And I think that if he continues, like, we might need to have discussions about another contract after this. Like, I think he's been really good. Like that's just a kind of a steal that the Chargers got. I can't imagine what this defense would look like without him. Especially because, Chris Harris has kind of been hurt, getting older. Plus, it's Asante's rookie year. Like, he was just so necessary to keep. Like, I don't think there was any way you could let him go in free agency. All right. Let's see.
Well, if they let him go, then they probably would have kept Casey Hayward, right? And like he's been falling out.
True.
But then you have you have 3 sub-6 corners on playing if you're a nickel, which is not a recipe for success.
Yeah, and also I think, like what they've had the flexibility to go like Michael Davis and Derwin on Kelsey and Waller and some guys in previous weeks, versus you're not going Derwin James and Casey Hayward on I think some of those bigger tight ends or some of those X factors in games for sure. All right, we'll finish it up on this one from Envy Talent. What defensive free agent next year would you want to join the Chargers?
Oh,
is there a defensive free agent that sticks out to you?
I need to go into.
Yeah, I'm opening up Spot Track right now. Yeah, defensive free
Yeah,
agents.
I need to go into over the
2022,
cap. Like, this is a very interesting question.
Yeah, we'll finish it up on this one, but yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I definitely think it's yeah. I mean, it's an interesting year because they have some of their own free agents and are probably going to be,
Mhm.
shuffling a few guys out. But I think in general, like, because I think Justin Jones is a free agent after this year, and they
Yeah.
also have, obviously Kaiser is a free agent, so account for that. But yeah, so this is a year where if they wanted to, they could load up on defense. I think I see them more loading up on offense, but we'll see. All right, so
They could
just
bring Desmond
rattling
King
off.
back to play slide.
Yeah, I, I think that's about 3 years too late on that one. Um, Von Miller is a free agent next year. Chandler Jones, Dante Fowler, Tyrann Mathieu. Don't think there's a chance they'll let Tyrann Mathieu walk in Kansas City. Whitney Merciless, Brandon Graham suffered an ACL injury, unfortunately. I guess Gilmore is a free agent right now. I think he'll probably sign like a 1-year deal and then finish out the season and try to get that bag next year too. Calais Campbell, Jason Pierre-Paul, Devin McCourty. There are definitely some interesting depth guys, like the Jets franchise tag Marcus May. So we'll see what happens there. But did you get a chance to look it over the cap and pick your guy?
Yeah. I mean, I would want to get like an interior D line guy if I'm being honest, but like it doesn't seem like maybe Akeem Hicks would be like beast, but like he's old, getting hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the overwhelming theme is they actually like don't need a whole lot on the rest of the defense. Obviously, they're still going to go through the draft, but the one area is interior defensive line. But like maybe there's a guy that like gets cut because of his contract or something like that. There's Ndamukong Suh, but he's kind of a little bit more washed, I think, in my opinion. I don't think he's been putting up like great production. Plus, I think Vita Vea is sort of the future in Tampa right now anyway. But yeah, not a free agent that sticks out to me right now, but obviously that can change as we get closer to free agency. I think we'll end the show there for today. So thanks to Arjun for coming on. Arjun, let the people know where they can find you and all of your work.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at ArjunMenon100. So that's where I post a lot of my graphs and a lot of my takes. Also an intern at PFF. So if you want to go read my stuff, go check out my author page. You can just look up PFF Arjun Menon. As you can see, we at PFF are very big fans of Brandon Staley. And now we are big fans of the Chargers in general. So, that's a good thing. I hope I did my job that everyone wanted me to do when I joined there as an intern. I've done my best. And obviously the Chargers have done a lot of good stuff on their own. So yeah, you can go check me out there.
Yeah, Arjun's our little sleeper agent inside the PFF machine right now, trying to overturn the Collinsworth regime of hating the Chargers, I guess. But yeah, Arjun's our guy there. So you can go check out his stuff over there, and we will see you guys after the game. We won't be doing a post-game pod this Sunday because Steven will be at the game, and he'll have to drive home. But we will be doing a pod this Monday afternoon after the Browns game. So remember to like, share, subscribe, and follow, and do all that great stuff like Kevin says in the chat. But we will see you guys.
Whoa.
What were you saying?
Jedrick Wills got downgraded to out right now.
Breaking news. Wow. Jedrick Wills has been right at the end of the podcast. Great. We spent 20 minutes talking about bullshit. Cool. But that's always fun. Jedrick Wills has been downgraded out, and now I know the YouTube comments are going to tell us that Jedrick Wills is out because they didn't watch the last 2 minutes of this video. But that is a big development for sure. We will see you guys after the game on Monday.